election is officially underway after Parliament was dissolved today, and the main parties have been setting out their main policies. Labour says it will stop accident and emergency departments in England from closing. The Conservatives say there's a £45 billion black hole in Labour's spending plans. UKIP leader today, Paul Nuttall, said voters have got to back them to make sure we get pressure on the government to get the right Brexit deal, and Lib Dem leader Tim Farron has been out and about meeting the public in Kidlington in Oxfordshire today, which led to a very extraordinary confrontation.
Absolute rubbish. You come out with this all the time, Mr. Farage.
Come on.
And you are an absolute disgrace.
How am I a disgrace, matey?
Yep. And I'm proud to have voted Leave.
You're very aggressive. You're a very aggressive man as well.
But are you got grandchildren?
Yes, I have got grandchildren.
Are you proud that they'll inherit a poorer, less
I'm proud that
they're going to.
I'm proud that they'll be coming out of Britain, out of Europe. Well, I mean, and that we will have our own destiny.
Do you not think
and not have people tell us we're going to pay £100 billion to get out? If that's your policies, I hope you get beat. I hope you only get 6 seats.
Well, thank you very much. It's been nice to talk to you. Can I just point out to you? Can I just point out to you that would never have happened to Theresa May because she doesn't talk to anybody normal. So God bless him. Is he normal then, Tim? He is a regular human being with an opinion, and I respect him. Don't boo him. We're not Corbyn. You know, we are open to the public. This is an election about changing Britain's future, and you don't do that without talking to people who disagree with you sometimes. Enough respect to the guy.
Actually, Tim Farron's got a point there, because he does go out into markets and meet the voters. Whereas, actually, I have to say, for everybody else, it's all pretty stage managed. And I know as a former party leader that people like Malcolm Baker, who was the man who was talking to Tim Farron, do occur all over the place. In fact, to be called a disgrace, let me tell you, I was called far worse than that. But it's very interesting. I've felt, myself, over the last couple of decades, that there's been a bit of a dislocation that's occurred between politicians and the people, the voters and our leaders. And given what Malcolm Baker said to Tim Farron today, and I'm not going to make him the whipping boy, this is about a far more general question. I want to ask you, if you were in front of a party leader, any party leader, what's the one thing you would say to them? And you're allowed to say which party leader it is and exactly what you would say. Would you confront them on Brexit, for argument's sake, on either side of the argument? If so, call me on 0345 60 60973. Perhaps you'd ask them about other policies, because maybe you're getting a bit bored that this election is dominated by Brexit, in which case you can text at 84850, and you may well want to use the opportunity to say, why don't you actually ever listen to anything we say? And if you want to do that, you can tweet, using the hashtag Farage and LBC at LBC. You can watch the show as ever on LBC's page right now. And Jeff in Reddit. So, Jeff, it's your big chance, matey. You are in front of a party leader. Which one, and what would you say?
It'd have to be Theresa May.
Yep.
And I know she tried very hard today to rebuff the EU people. But I would probably ask a question of the people in the EU, a commercial question, really. Have you ever had a set of your accounts audited over the last 20 years? And if you haven't, how would you propose to produce an invoice?
So, Jeff, you want to meet Jean-Claude Juncker, don't you, really?
Well, not really, because, I realise David Cameron didn't want to meet him.
Well, David Cameron, of course, tried to veto him becoming president of the Commission. So you would say, for 20 years in a row, your accounts have not been signed. Why on earth should we go on paying net £30 million a day? Have I got you, Jeff, roughly there?
You roughly got me there, sir.
Right. So are you angrier, Jeff, with EU bureaucrats and politicians than you are with UK politicians?
Very much angry with the EU politicians, yeah.
So you were a Brexit voter, I guess?
I was a Brexit voter.
And what would you have told Tim Farron today?
Well, Tim Farron's got a problem. He's in favour of the EU. I voted to go into the common market as a trade unionist many years ago. when Mr. Heath was around, and he never told me I've got to have a political union. And since then, I've never really been given the opportunity to actually turn around and say, I don't want this. I never voted for this in the first place. So as far as the EU people go, that ain't what I voted for, but that's what I've ended up with.
Jeff, very good. Mr. Juncker, if you're listening, avoid Redditch. Otherwise, you'll meet Jeff in the street. I want to hear from all of you. Whatever your views are, please get involved in this debate. And you can agree with me, you can vehemently disagree with me, but you will have your chance on this show to get heard. So, Jeff wants to bash a bureaucrat. And I wasn't necessarily expecting that reaction, but I do understand it. Graham in Hay on Wye, who would you like to meet and what would you like to say?
Hello, Nigel. I would love to meet Tim Farron, who wants to give the people another referendum and a chance to remain. I would like to ask him exactly what remain is he offering us. There was a lot of talk about what sort of Brexit we're going to get. What sort of remain would we get? Would we still keep our rebate? Would we have to join the European army? Would we...
or the euro, Graham.
The euro, exactly. If we go slinking back with our tail between our legs, what sort of deal are we going to get? And is he going to give the people another referendum when we know what sort of deal we're going to have to accept with continuing bailing out of the euro, migration quotas, having to join the European army, all these sort of things?
You do make, Graham, a very valuable point, because in the referendum it was painted out that if you vote Brexit, it's a leap in the dark, but if you vote to remain, it'll be exactly as it is today. Whereas, of course, we know that the EU is evolving, the EU is attempting to centralise, and we never know what piece of legislation they might pass on our light bulbs or whatever it is next week. No, Graham, that's a perfectly fair point. But would you, Graham, agree with me and actually pay Tim Farron some credit for at least taking the risk of going out and meeting the public?
I do give him credit for that, and I think he handled it pretty well, actually. Although the chap obviously made a very valid point that I totally agree with, and Tim Farron couldn't really answer it, he at least did get some credit for saying, I'm speaking to real people, and gave that person some credit for standing up and giving his views.
Graham,
he handled it pretty well. I'll give him credit for that.
No, I agree with that. And when I was leader of UKIP, I used to go and meet the real public. I cannot tell you how many public houses I visited up and down the length and breadth of this country, and that's where I got my sort of focus group feedback. Some of it was lovely, bits of it weren't. Dean in Bromley, what would you like to ask anybody?
I would like to know that now we're no longer in Europe, will you be giving up your MEP pension?
No, I won't, Dean.
Oh.
Why should I?
Because you think that everything in Europe, the European Parliament, is rotten.
Oh, well, I don't deny for one moment that it's rotten. But, Dean, I would say this to you, that I gave up quite a well-paid job in business to do politics. I took a massive salary cut to do it. And the very least I owe to my family and to others is that when I croak it, which will probably be much earlier than most people given my lifestyle, that at least the family gets some money. That's not unreasonable, is it?
Does the pension carry on forever?
Well, if I die, then half of that pension will go to those that are left behind after me. And do I not owe it to them, having ruined their lives for 20 years doing this job, having through what I've done, had their privacy invaded, our income denuded? Wouldn't it be reasonable to say that they should get something after I'm gone?
Well, who's going to pay that pension pot if we're out of Europe?
Well, now that's really interesting, Dean, and I love that question. And at 7:30, I'm going to do a financial roundup on this. I was saying, Dean, on this show a couple of weeks ago, that Monsieur Barnier had plucked the figure of 60 billion euros out of the air. Well, today they played the Joker. And in cahoots with the Financial Times, and I'm not quite sure whose side they're on, but clearly not Britain's, they're saying it could be 100 billion. And, Dean, I'm going to go through at 7:30, after the news, exactly what I think our liabilities are, including pensions for MEPs and for former EU bureaucrats. Dean, you get a full answer in 20 minutes' time, and thank you very much indeed. I get a text here that says to me, I would ask about the House of Lords, the TV licence and our slow internet speed, says D in Kent. D, you clearly live in one of those nice leafy lanes where you have not got broadband. On Twitter, Bez says, I'd ask Mrs May, you called the general election, why are you not out campaigning? Well, for that matter, Bez, why are you not going to take part in the TV debates? And by the way, bit of news on that, folks, today. ITV have announced that on the 18th of May, they will hold a leaders' debate, as they did last time, with Julie Etchingham in the chair. They're inviting the leaders of all the big political parties, and it's entirely up to Mrs May whether she turns up or not. The BBC appear to have run away from this, and I just want to say right now, well done, ITV, for continuing with this, and I think Mrs May will be a diminished figure if she doesn't dare turn up. Middling on Twitter says, Nige, I like that. Political differences aside, wasn't it great to see Farage accept a different opinion earlier? Something few MPs do. Yes, 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 I agree. Full marks to Tim Farage for actually being out there and meeting the public. Grace in Ealing, who would you like to meet? What would you like to say?
I think that what I really want to know from lots of politicians is what their personal ultimate goals are. I want politicians who are trying to make things as fair as possible for as many people as possible, and I feel that the Tories say that they're concerned about the working classes, but their policies seem to show otherwise, and I'd really like to grill Theresa May about what her motives are, indeed why she's not out campaigning. If I got to meet Tim Farage, I'd ask him to clarify the sin issue a bit better, because I thought he did a shoddy job of trying to explain that theologically. But yeah, it would be really good for politicians to be clearer about what their personal reasons for being in politics are, because sometimes it seems that they're really fighting for justice and other times it doesn't.
Grace, I understand that completely. It's a very good question, and it reminds me of a morning in June 1999 when I woke up having slept for a full 80 or 90 minutes, and I'd been elected the night before as an MEP, and the phone rang, and it was a veteran journalist called Christopher Booker, who still writes for the Sunday Telegraph and still does a column in Private Eye. And Booker said to me, he said, Nigel, I've been writing about current affairs and politics for 40 years, and let me tell you, he said, there are two types of people in politics. There are those who want to be something, and there are those who want to do something. And you better make your mind up pretty quickly, young man, well, I was then, which one of those you are. And I, not that I needed it, but I decided I wasn't in it for rank, title or position. I was in it because I wanted to change things. And Grace, you're absolutely right. Asking that basic question about people's motivations would be a great question to ask, not one party leader, but actually all of them. Right now, you're listening to the Nigel Farage Show, exclusively on LBC. It's 7:15.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast on LBC.
Cyclists should be given priority over other road users in an updated version of the Highway Code. They need more protection, say MPs. Ruth Cadbury is co-chair of the all-party parliamentary group on cycling.
Yeah, but we need to re-establish the hierarchy of vulnerability, and cyclists are more vulnerable.
The idea that cyclists are always universally correct and the lorry driver or the motorist is universal is simply unfair. Do you not agree that some kind of registration for cyclists?
Well, most of us own bikes, and quite a lot of us cycle some of the time. Are you saying that most of the population should be in some way registered?
Yeah, with a number on the back, so that when they jump traffic lights, as they do, should we so desire, we can set a camera up and catch them.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast, every weekday morning from 7, only on LBC.
With Hampton by Hilton, now open in Aberdeen.
A tummy full of yummy breakfast? Good, you're going to need all the fuel you can get, kiddo. Today is the big one. Belt in, braces on, bow tie tied, looking sharp. Bing! Now for your dancing shoes. Quick polish, triple knot, and bound out the door of the family room. It's party time! Happy 90th birthday, great Aunt Mabel. You don't look a day over 82. Whatever your story, this is a great place to start. Premier Inn. Premier U.
Breakfast prices and options may vary. Exclude certain locations.
Whether you're battling traffic in Waterloo or crossing King's Cross like a king, if you're powering past Battersea or flying down to Canary Wharf, when you're going like the Clappers to Clapham or want to get to Seven Sisters in one tap, at My Taxi, we're always looking for ways to improve our service and yours. So you can breeze down the bus lane safe in the knowledge that if your cab is black, this app always has your back. My Taxi, the black cab app.
Here at Admiral HQ, we have the best insurance nerds, like Nigel.
Hello.
Apart from memorising the hits of Bryan Adams, 1984 to 2004, Nigel made it possible for you to add any of your family to an Admiral multi-car policy at any time that suits you. Wow, they love you, Nigel. They want to thank you for all the discounts.
I'd just like to say, everything I do it for you!
Oh, Nigel. Admiral, looking out for you.
If you own a Swiss watch and it's time to sell it, speak to watches.co.uk. The whole process runs like clockwork. Rolex, Patek Philippe, Omega and more. It only takes a couple of ticks and we pay immediately. Or if you just fancy a change, we could take yours in part exchange. From time on your hands to money in your pocket, it couldn't be easier with watches.co.uk. The pre-owned Swiss watch specialist.
Hi, I'm Ryan Reynolds, and I'm going to demonstrate just how far around the home BT Infinity can reach in the next 20 seconds. Here goes. I can get Wi-Fi here in the kitchen. Back here in the bathroom. Oh, look at that. Out here in the garden. Even way up in the attic. You know what? Let's just take my word for it.
BT Infinity, the UK's most powerful Wi-Fi versus major broadband providers.
To verify, visit bt.com/smarthub.
Divorce can be expensive. It affects your finances, assets, home, savings, pension, and most of all, your relationship with your children. It's probably one of the toughest times you'll ever go through. Cordell & Cordell understands these issues and helps men maximise their roles in their children's lives. Call now on 0330 60 60 161 or visit cordellcordell.co.uk. Office in central London. A partner men can count on.
Leading Britain's conversation. The Nigel Farage Show. Tweet at LBC using the hashtag #FarageOnLBC.
Parliament has been dissolved. Theresa May has been to meet the Queen, not that she needed to, but she did. She gave a big stirring speech outside number 10 Downing Street. The election campaign is on. And in some ways, the highlight of the day was Mr. Malcolm Baker in Oxford, or a suburb of Oxford, meeting Tim Farron and telling him what he thought about Brexit and everything else. And I'm asking you, if you were to meet a leading politician, what would you say to them? And I want to hear all of your views on this and any other subject. I'm here for you to challenge me and to get involved in the debate. Do you think politicians are connected to us? Do you think maybe the referendum last year made politics more real? Do they look more human and normal to you? Michael in Swansea, who would you want to meet and what would you want to say?
Hi, good evening, Nigel.
Good evening.
I would ask Theresa May how easy it was for her to change from a Remain supporter in the referendum to now a hardline Brexiteer.
In fact, Michael, so hardline that in her speech today outside number 10, she said, "I believe in Britain," which was my general election campaign slogan in 2015. It is a remarkable 180-degree turn, isn't it?
Indeed it is.
What do you think she'd say?
She'd probably avoid the question completely.
I'm not sure, Michael, she'd even meet you.
Well,
I think she's going to. I think she's going to play this very safe. I think she's going to play this campaign through the media. I think she's going to play it through soundbite and spin and messaging. And I doubt she'll do a walkabout in Swansea and take the risk that Tim Farron took. I mean, I could be wrong. Maybe she will. Maybe Swansea is next on her list, and Michael, you can ask her that. But then again, and I have to try, because there's an election period on, I've got to try and be objective and balanced and fair. It could be, Michael, could it not, that rather than being just a cynical career politician going with the wind, that she's genuinely changed her mind?
I'm not sure. There was quite a incredible speed she managed to change her mind. It was quite sudden. If it was a gradual change to being a Brexiteer, then maybe I consider that. But
come on, St Paul was on the road to Damascus, and he changed, didn't he? Michael, I think you're a very deeply cynical human being, and I don't think you believe Theresa May's conversion to be real, do you?
No.
Thank you very much indeed for your call. I get another one. I would like to ask Mrs May, I get on text, why we cannot walk away from the EU right now, says BB. Well, actually, given the escalation of debate that's been going on today, that may well happen. I would like to ask Nicola Sturgeon, what's the difference between independence from the UK and not the EU, says Pete in Oxfordshire. Oh, and I love this one. Adrian, you are a star. This is, I'm going to predict already, the best message of the evening. Adrian says on Twitter, if I met Diane Abbott, I would ask her challenging questions, such as, What is 2 plus 2? Very good. I'm going to go to Sean in Harlesden. Sean, who would you like to meet? What would you like to ask?
I'd really like to meet you, and what I'd really like to ask is, why do you have to lie so much?
Oh, well, I'm not sure I do, Sean, but, I mean, if you can illustrate and give me examples, I mean, you're very happy to say it or put it in writing, and I'll do my best, you know.
Oh, here we go. You're very good at skirting around the question. This is
No, I'm not. Sean, ask me, I tell you what, old son, ask me a question, I'll answer it.
Right, I'll tell you what then. OK, here we go then. Let's point a couple of your lies out then, shall we?
Just do one. One at a time is the best way to deal with this.
All right then, just the one.
No, I did, Sean, right. With respect, say one at a time. Who knows? We may keep you on the line for the rest of the show. Let's start with one.
All right then. Well, your lie about EU legislation makes things difficult for small businesses. So you explain this then. In accordance to you that it damages small businesses. In a 2013 YouGov poll of small to medium business owners, 71% of them said that the EU membership had a positive effect on the business, while only 13% of them reported a negative impact. But you have to ramp this up constantly, don't you? Like how you ramped up the £55 million a day to be an EU member. It's actually 2.5% of the annual budget, which works out at about, my maths is a bit bad here, but 20 billion a year. So educate.
Just ask Diane Abbott, Sean. She'll help you.
No, I'm asking you, mate.
Sean, the fact that very often people in small business weren't aware of what the EU was doing to them does not.
And it's never harmed my small business, but Brexit's going to harm my small business. So,
is it? So how much?
Yeah,
so you export to Europe, do you?
No, it's not that kind of small business.
Oh, I see. So
and it's legal before you say it's legal before you say
it's legal. Good. I'm pleased to hear it.
My business. I'm here to talk about.
Well, you just did talk about your business.
Like how you talked about the 350 million to the NHS. Blatant lie. And then you backtrack on it on ITV this morning. Never said it.
No,
yeah,
Sean. Listen, old son, I never said it. But you tell me one outright lie I've told. Just one.
One outright lie. Bloody hell. All right, then staying in the EU.
Come on, let's just. I mean, don't use words like bloody. Only Theresa May is allowed to do things like that. You tell me one outright lie, Sean.
Well, to my nephew, I'm more important than Theresa May, and I wouldn't even trust Theresa May as far as I could throw her. Because going back to what that gentleman from Wales said before about how she said, I want to remain in Europe, and now she wants to leave Europe.
Sean, listen, mate, just because you don't like me, and that's absolutely fine.
You're amazing.
But I'm giving you an opportunity. I'm giving you, on air, far more time than I ought to say to you, ask me one simple question, and you're struggling to ask that question.
No, I'm asking you why you lie. I've just told you and you're not even giving me an answer.
Right, OK, Sean, you've asked a question. I'm going to answer it. I've done my absolute utmost.
No, you haven't.
Having come...
All right,
I haven't even finished yet. Well, there's no point asking a question and not waiting for the answer. Otherwise, we're all going to whistle in the wind, aren't we? Sean,
15 to 50%.
I've done my best to tell the truth as I see it, and I believed in it. I'm never going to convince you. But, Sean, the point is, if you get the opportunity to really have a go, you've got to be ready for it and prepared for it. And I'm sorry, I think, with all due respect, Sean, you failed the test. 0 point. We go to Peter in Godalming. Peter, who would you like to meet and what would you like to say?
Good evening, Nigel.
Good evening.
I would like to pose a question to Jeremy Corbyn, why it is he thinks it is acceptable for himself and Shadow Chancellor McDonnell to ally themselves with the British Communist Party, an ideology that is responsible for the death of many millions of people, and yet we brand people such as yourself as political extremists. Why are the media not asking him these questions?
I think, to be fair to Jeremy Corbyn, and I did hear the leader of, I think they're now called the New Communist Party of Great Britain, who did incidentally back Brexit as well. Anyway, but I think you'll find that it was the New Communist Party of Great Britain that have allied themselves to Corbyn's campaign and not the other way around, Peter, unless I'm wrong.
I mean, McDonald is a self-professed Marxist, and
yes.
And if the Labour Party were to gain power, they won't. But if they were to, we would see a Marxist in charge of the British economy. I mean, is Is this something that's beneficial to the British people? I don't think so.
Would you equally, Peter, ask him about his previous comments about Hamas,
Absolutely,
the IRA? I think, to be fair, I think this particular question you've asked isn't actually on the money, because it's the Communist Party that have allied themselves to him. But it would be not unreasonable in the context of this election to ask him why he has strange friends.
He tweeted on May Day to the May Day protests in London his solidarity to them. I mean, don't get me wrong, that might just be a gesture of goodwill. But regardless, I think it's not particularly good for someone to ally themselves with such an extreme political...
Peter, I get that. I understand that totally. But I would ask other callers to come on and tell me that actually Jeremy Corbyn is fully entitled to do those things. Steve in Stevenage, quickly. Who would you like to meet? What do you want to say?
Yeah, hello, Nigel. I'll ask Tim Farron. Given the unsustainable level of immigration and the housing crisis, I'd ask him, where's everybody going to live?
Well, they're going to build lots of new houses, Steve, is what Tim Farron would say, and you'd be satisfied, wouldn't you?
No, I don't think that would work, though, would it? Because we haven't got enough builders to build the houses that are being built now. So we'd have to import more people.
Steve, I can't see what the problem is. We only have to build one house every 4 minutes to cope with current levels of immigration.
Yeah, absolutely. Brilliant. Well, let's start. You start with one brick, right? I'll start with another.
Well,
and we'll see how many houses we can build between us.
Do you know what, Steve? You might get your chance, because Farron is going to tour market towns and constituencies all around this country. Stevenage may be on his list. You might get a chance to ask that question. Martin asks on Facebook, I would ask Mrs May if she thinks Britain needs strong and stable leadership. I love it. You're listening to the Nigel Farage Show, exclusively on LBC. It's 7:30 and time for the news with Moira Alderson.
Theresa May is on the attack over Brexit negotiations with the EU before they've even officially begun. The Prime Minister has accused unnamed Brussels officials of using deliberate threats to influence June's general election. 2 services are being held in Portugal and in Leicestershire, marking exactly 10 years since Madeleine McCann went missing. UK police have spent £11 million on the investigation. Police have been granted another week to question a man arrested near Downing Street in April. Khalid Mohammed Omar Ali from Tottenham in North London is being held on suspicion of terrorism and weapons offences. LBC weather, a cloudy night ahead for much of the country with some light rain, clearer spells further north, an overnight low of 10 degrees.
LBC Travel. Good evening. I'm Andy Lake. In East London, the A223 North Cray Road is blocked. That's northbound following an accident earlier on between Vicarage Road and Bunkers Hill. Southbound reopened just after 7 o'clock. Still delays around there this evening. In North London, the North Circular is stop-start eastbound between the A10 in Edmonton and the Crooked Billet Junction in Walthamstow after an accident there earlier today. The North Circular also still struggling in West London, northbound approaching the A40, queues back to Ealing Common. In Wiltshire, the A4 is closed between West Kennet and Beckhampton to recover a collision that happened earlier. Still queues around there. And in the West Midlands, the M6 is heavy northbound between Spaghetti Junction and Junction 7 for the A34 at Great Bar. The inside lane of 4 is closed because of a breakdown. Onto the rails now. Great Western Railway services have ground to a halt between Basingstoke and Reading because a train has broken down. For more real-time traffic updates, go to lbc.co.uk.
This is LBC.
When I set up my business, it was lots of investment and not much sleep. After all the hard work, I want to make it pay.
WorldPay is the UK's leading payments provider, trusted by over 300,000 small businesses. Whether you're looking to grow a coffee shop or an online business, you need a payment provider you can rely on. With secure, reliable payment systems and 24/7 UK support, WorldPay makes your payments work as hard as you do. Visit worldpay.com/makeitpay.
Your future is here. The Global Academy in Hayes is a state school for 14 to 19-year-olds interested in a media career. Find out more at globalacademy.com.
Come and experience Lebanese dining at Marouche Restaurants. Try some of our amazing dishes, kafta dipped in a delicious hummus, or a colourful meze, complemented by a robust Lebanese red. With live music and traditional belly dancing, enjoy an atmosphere to match the food's rich and distinctive flavours. Go to Marouche.com to find out more. Marouche Restaurants, the finest Lebanese food across London.
If you own a Swiss watch and it's time to sell it, speak to watches.co.uk. The whole process runs like clockwork. Rolex, Patek Philippe, Omega and more. It only takes a couple of ticks and we pay immediately. Or if you just fancy a change, we could take yours in part exchange. From time on your hands to money in your pocket, it couldn't be easier with watches.co.uk. The pre-owned Swiss watch specialist.
Here's another true story from Aldermartin, Baines and Cuthbert. When fire tore through a residential London development in 2015, the local health and safety executive were quickly on the scene. Fortunately, ABC had all the right health and safety paperwork and certificates, and to the great relief of the building's owners, were able to prove there was no fault. No fuss, no hassle. For block management, ABC Estates will give your story an ending that'll make you as happy as Larry. Find out more at abcestates.co.uk or call 0800 888 6688.
This is LBC, the Nigel Farage Show. Call 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Tweet at LBC using the hashtag Farage on LBC.
A voter gets angry, stroppy, with Tim Farron in the streets of Oxfordshire today, and I'm asking you, who would you like to meet amongst our political leaders and what would you like to say? But a few little news roundups that I think may be of interest. The first is France. This Sunday is the second round of the French presidential elections. It's Emmanuel Macron against Marine Le Pen. And the opinion polls are shifting. They are changing, albeit still a big lead for Macron. But the last reputable poll we've got is Macron on 59%, Marine Le Pen on 41%, which is quite a significant narrowing of the gap since last week. Tonight, roughly at 9:30 UK time, they will go head-to-head live on French TV for a 2.5-hour debate. A fascinating election taking place there. But in Brexit news, well, firstly, the war of words that we talked about yesterday, you know, with Juncker and Juncker's team briefing a German newspaper, leaking everything that was said at the Downing Street dinner, including abusing the chef and the food. And things today, I think, have really, really deteriorated because Juncker's chief of staff, a man called Martin Selmayr, who at one point used to drink in the same pub as me in Brussels, but I think he's boycotted it now. And Martin Selmayr, who was a top aide to Juncker, and he has called today Brexit a sad and sorry event. He said Brexit will never become a success, and Mr. Juncker will never spend more than 30 minutes a week dealing with it. So the war of words gets worse and worse and worse. And how Juncker and Selmayr and all these people think by escalating this, they're somehow damaging Theresa May and damaging the British government, I don't know. I think with every utterance they give, they probably give her an opportunity to increase her majority at this election. But the really big story is we wake up this morning to be told that the Brexit bill has just doubled overnight. It's just become 100 billion euros that they want us to pay up front. This is according to FT calculations. Now, I'm not quite sure whose side the FT are on, though I have my suspicions. This, by the way, and if you want to read and see what your share price has done, or reports from currency markets or whatever, the FT is brilliant. Of course it is. But don't forget, this is the very same FT that advocated strongly that Britain join the euro, and thank goodness we didn't listen to them. Why are the FT, working with our enemies on this very issue to try and escalate the bill that they think would need to be paid? How relevant is it? Well, I've spoken on this before, but I just want to bring you up to speed on one or two of the points of law here. The European Union has what is called a multi-annual financial framework, and it runs for a 7-year period. The current one ends at the end of 2020. But Article 50 of the Lisbon Treaty, which remember we triggered just a few weeks ago, is clear that the treaties shall cease to apply to a nation leaving the European Union. So, at worst, we could be considered to be expected to go on paying our bill until the end of 2020. Legally under the treaty, we should stop paying anything at the end of March 2019. And please don't forget, folks, between the date that we voted for Brexit and the date we leave at the end of March 2019, we will have paid in net nearly 30 billion. Now, I was asked a question earlier about what ongoing liabilities there could be. And yes, there is a point here about pensions. Yes, there have been MEPs over the years, but more significantly, staff working in the European Parliament and particularly the European Commission. And we as a party have looked at what the total pension bill is, what the percentage of employees that are British are, and we think there is an ongoing liability of somewhere between £2 and £3 billion a year. I re-emphasise £2 and £3 billion a year. And I would have thought what the British government should do is to take all those liabilities off the EU's books and add them to the British parliamentary and British civil servant scheme. So the idea that we should be effectively held to ransom for 100 billion euros is beginning to look totally and utterly ridiculous. And if any of you think I'm wrong on any of that, please call on 0345 60 60 973. But back to the main point, Farage at least having the guts to go and meet the voters and being challenged in the street. And I'm asking you, who would you like to meet and what would you like to say? And I'm going to ask Ramon in Bayswater who he would like to meet.
Hi, Nigel.
Hello.
Hi. I want to ask Jeremy Corbyn, obviously my party leader, why he's intent on trashing Tony Blair's record in government when the whole point of fighting an election is to back up your record in government. I mean, whether you like or loathe Mr. Blair, which I know many people loathe him, he's the only Labour leader in 40 years who's known how to win a bloody election. And if you're going to trash the guy...
This word keeps coming back, doesn't it? It's Theresa May started something here. We're all saying bloody, and we've got to stop it. But, no, Ramon, we talked about Blair yesterday, and, he was a phenomenal election-winning machine. But
exactly.
But fair to say that Jeremy Corbyn voted against him on virtually everything, didn't he?
Yeah, but the whole point of winning elections is to back up what you did in government previous to that. But I don't see Theresa May trashing David Cameron's record, and I don't see Tim Farron trashing Nick Clegg's record.
No.
If you want to show the public why you want to win an election, you have to talk about your successes in government.
OK, Ramon, let's say that you are Ramon in Bayswater and I'm going to try and play Jeremy Corbyn, right? So you've asked me that question and I'm going to answer that's because it was an aberration that was called New Labour and we've now returned to being a proper socialist party. What would you say to that?
Right, so what happened, where were you when we introduced the minimum wage, when we introduced a sure start for women? We got peace in Northern Ireland, we got devolution across the British Isles. Where were you? You voted for this. You might have voted against tuition fees, you might have voted against the Iraq and Afghanistan war, but for the benefits of, that we gave to this country, being the minimum wage, being devolution, being, all these other things, like sure start for women, and all these different things that New Labour did domestically, which I believe they were good things. I mean, I know you have a different opinion, obviously, but in terms of foreign policy, fine, it was trash.
Right.
But you have to talk about the things that you did domestically.
Okay.
Otherwise, no one will know why you want power in this country. And he needs to talk about power as well, because in our party's constitution, the first term of our party's constitution is we are a political party that fights for office. We're not a pressure group. We're not an organisation. We're a force that fights for an election.
Yeah, no, Ramon, I completely understand that. Now, given that if you believe the polls, and they're often wrong, if you believe the polls, would you then be campaigning for Blair to take over as leader?
I wouldn't be campaigning for Blair to take over as leader, no. I'd be campaigning for, someone who's not a Blairite, but not a Corbynite either. So someone like Dan Jarvis, I think, would be the perfect candidate.
He's the ex-army officer who represents a seat in Barnsley somewhere, isn't he? Yeah.
Exactly. He's fought in 4 wars. What does that look like to working-class people who we've, quite frankly, lost? It shows that he's patriotic and he puts his body on the line for the country.
I have a feeling, Ramon, that this is a debate we're going to be having before the end of June, and I thank you for your thoughts and your call. Sarah in Sanderstead, who would you like to meet, and what would you say?
Well, hello, good evening, Nigel. Very, very nice to speak to you. I'd like to meet Tim Farron because, first of all, he just talked over the top of the pensioner in Oxford earlier on, and then he said, you know, we're going to be poorer, less secure, less powerful.
Oh, and your grandchildren, he said, didn't
right.
he? Yes.
He said, have you got grandchildren?
Yes.
And the guy said, yes, I have, and I'm proud that I voted for them. And I've had this one flung at me. I've got grandchildren. And, of course, we're going to be more secure because we're going to have cooperation. And also, we will have more control over our borders. And as for poorer, well, James Dyson can't wait to start exporting to the Commonwealth countries. He's a great proponent of Brexit. And it's very interesting looking at the way the totalitarian Eurocrat bullies are behaving. They're coming out and showing what they really are like, the way they're speaking and blackmailing and threatening and intimidating. How dare they?
Well, I agree. They're being beastly, Sarah, aren't they?
Well, they're just showing, I mean, a good relationship should be one of mutual respect. And I do think that Theresa May has really tried to be respectful and clear and say we want to be allies, we want to work together. And then to get all this backlash is just shows what the sort of people they're like.
Well, and they're playing, Sarah, they're playing completely into her hands, and I thank you. Lloyd from Oxfordshire says, I'd like to ask Jeremy Corbyn how he expects to run the country when he can't even do his tie-up properly. Kathy in Southampton says, I would like to meet Mr Juncker and ask him why he doesn't grow up and accept that we are leaving. And Tanis on Facebook says, I'd like to ask Tony Blair how he sleeps at nights. I want to hear all your views, all your opinions. I'm here. Come and challenge me. Right now, you're listening to The Nigel Farage Show, exclusively on LBC. It's 7:45.
Coming up at 8 on LBC, Clive Bull.
Theresa May has accused EU politicians of making threats against Britain to try and influence the general election. Is she right to have said this?
Clive Bull on LBC.
If your property investment portfolio is growing, you might find you have some questions, like whether to operate the business through a limited company. And if you do, then what about the accounting and tax issues? Or you might want to know about the legal issues under landlord and tenant or inheritance tax. So who can help you with this? Barnes Rofe. Clever accountants for property businesses. Visit barnesrofe.com/radio.
When was the last time you saw the cost of filling your car come down? Well, it just has at your local Vauxhall retailer. On top of our other great offers, Vauxhall are giving away £500 of free fuel with a new car or van at their sales event between the 28th of April and the 7th of May. Just go to your local Vauxhall retailer or search Vauxhall sales event. Simple. On selected models across the range, registered by the 31st of May at participating retailers from the 28th of April to the 7th of May. £500 on a prepaid debit card. Full T's and C's apply. See vauxhall.co.uk/sales event.
The best place for sleepyheads is in a Bridge bedding bed.
At Bridge Bedding, we have hundreds of beds and mattresses in stock from the biggest brands in the UK. We'll beat any price on a like-for-like basis and we'll deliver for free. So before you buy your next new bed, visit a Bridge Bedding Centre, Rectory Groveley-on-Sea, Upminster Road, Hornchurch, or online at bridgebedding.com.
The best place for sleepyheads is in a Bridge bedding bed.
Hi, I'm Ryan Reynolds, and I'm going to demonstrate just how far around the home BT Infinity can reach in the next 20 seconds. Here goes. I can get Wi-Fi here in the kitchen. Back here in the bathroom. Oh, look at that. Out here in the garden. Even way up in the attic. You know what? Let's just take my word for it.
BT Infinity, the UK's most powerful Wi-Fi versus major broadband providers.
To verify, visit bt.com/smarthub.
This is the sound of someone breaking into your business. It's that simple. And once they're in your systems, they can do real damage.
Hiscox Cyber and Data Insurance for small businesses covers everything from extortion to data theft. Our team of IT specialists will recover lost data and prevent further damage wherever possible, so you can concentrate on connections in the real world. Hiscox Cyber and Data Insurance for the small and the brave.
The Nigel Farage Show on LBC.
Bit of a fisticuffs happened today between Tim Farron and a member of the public, and I'm asking you, who would you like to meet? Which political leader would you like to get face-to-face with, and what would you ask them? And Tim on Facebook says, I'd like to meet Theresa May and ask her if this whole general election is a Brexit delaying tactic. And Rob says, Nigel, I'd ask the top honchos at the EU if they have no understanding whatsoever of the British psyche and advise them that we really don't respond very well to attempted intimidation. Love it, Rob. Top stuff. Abraham in Stamford Hill, who would you like to meet and what would you like to say?
Hi, Nigel. I would like to meet you. First, I would like to say it's a great honour for me to speak to you.
Well, thank you very much.
I think it's a big shame that you are the leader of UKIP. I think you should now aim to become the leader of Conservative, being a more of a group that wins, and should become the leader and lead Britain, and you'll be the strongest leader I think Britain has ever had, will ever have. You're a person who knows you know what you're talking, and whatever you've done, you've proven, and you always know how to bring these things right out. And I've watched debates, I've watched you speaking in the EU, and you always pinpoint, and it's a shame that a person like you is so talented and gifted.
Well, it's very kind of you, Abraham, but
not a leader of a group that can actually make a bigger difference.
But look, Abraham, whoa. Firstly, I agree with Groucho Marx. I'd never really want to join a club that would have me. But the point is that I left the Conservative Party 26 years ago because I felt that I could help to make a bigger difference from outside what was perceived to be the mainstream of politics. And I think to a certain extent I achieved that. And as for becoming leader of Conservatives, do you know what? They've got a leader at the moment who I think is the most popular there's almost ever been. So not much of a vacancy, but thank you for your sweet and kind words. Peter in Hackney, who would you like to meet?
Miss Abbott, or Mrs. Abbott, or whatever she calls herself.
The LBC star of yesterday, yeah.
That's correct. I mean, I live in Hackney, as you just said.
Yep.
And she says that she represents the people of Hackney, and how can she, with the comments that she comes out with? I mean, she puts her foot in it every time she goes. I mean, that is it. Why? I mean, when I was listening to her yesterday, it's only when I went on to see her on the morning show on the TV that I see that she keeps looking up at the sky. You know, she's looking up as it was saying.
Well, she's looking for inspiration, Peter. You can't knock her for that, can you?
Well, it'd be nice if when she got her inspiration, it was something decent. I mean, to put her foot in it, Nick cut her right down to the quick yesterday.
Peter, tell me, have you ever met her?
And I wouldn't like to, because I know that I'm a forthright speaking person, and I know what I would say, because I remember years ago when she turned around and put her child into that private St Paul's school down at Blackfriars.
Yeah.
And she says, I'm not bringing my kid up in Hackney. You know, so you should tell me. I mean, she's cock-a-hoot, you know, saying all socialists should go to state schools, and yet she immediately says, not all socialists, but not me.
Well, Peter, I appreciate your strong-held views, but the question I was asking was, who would you like to meet, and what would you like to ask them? And you don't even want to meet her. That's how upset and angry you feel. On Twitter, I'm asked my question to all candidates is, what is your renewable energy policy and the time frame? And John Shannon asks that. John, don't bother asking Donald Trump. That one is all I can say. And Anthony asked me on Facebook, he says, Dear Nicola Sturgeon, why do you want to leave one union for another? Very good. I'm going to get a Christian on the Isle of Wight. Christian, who would you like to meet?
Oh, hello, Nigel. Well, the person I'd like to meet, I'm talking to, so...
Very good. Well, you're here. Ask away.
Right, well, first of all, on a personal point of view, I'd like to echo what the gentleman, one person ago said. It is an honour to meet you. I think you're doing a cracking job.
That's very kind.
To lay down your life for a cause and...
Oh, I'm still... Christian, I'm still alive, mate.
Yeah, well, OK. To stand up
Only just, but, you know...
Well, let me just say, it's very unusual for somebody with integrity to rise to the top in a mainstream party, as you know. You just explained why you...
Christian, you're sweet, but what is your question to me?
My question is this, and it's a genuine one from me. I keep on the ball with what's happening on the mainstream and also the alternative media and global politics. And what I wanted to ask you is, could you just explain for me and the other listeners, because information is everything, education is everything, why staying as a member of the European Parliament, doing the cracking job you're doing there, which I watch all the videos, etc. Do you not? How do you think that you wouldn't be better educating the English people from the very in Parliament?
No, it's a very, very good question, Christian, and I'm going to give you a two-part answer. First part is, today, I was watching Rolling News today, and I saw a flash to a European Parliament committee where my old friend Guy Verhofstadt was speaking. I've never before seen a European Parliament committee being covered live on cable television in this country. And what that tells you, Christian, is that actually the emphasis over this whole Brexit process will be far more in the European Parliament than it will be in the United Kingdom Parliament. Part answer one. Part answer two is this. What could I do as a backbench MP in Westminster, perhaps being called twice a year for Prime Minister's questions, compared to leading a group in the European Parliament, sitting in seat number 20, with Mr Juncker in seat number 21? I think, Christian, I've got a much bigger, better stage to propel the Brexit arguments there than I've got here. And that is my answer to you.
Yeah, well, that's excellent. That's really opened my eyes. Basically, you're educating the rest of Europe, who perhaps see more of the European Parliament.
I think you will
in Britain at the moment.
Yeah, Christian, believe you me, you are going to see an absolute load of the European Parliament in the next couple of years. I thank you ever so much for your kind sentiments, words, and your phone call. Chris in Slough, who do you want to meet?
I'd very much like to speak to Mr Juncker.
Right. Well, over a glass of something, perhaps, or?
Well, perhaps, yes. I'm sure he'd end up smashing it over my head, though. But do
you know what? Actually, Chris, do you know what? All the years I've been there, and I've done battle with the Barrosos and the Herman Van Rompuys and all those people, actually, even though I think Juncker's political behaviour is absolutely appalling, on a one-to-one, Chris, he's actually rather charming. He's actually rather charming.
Quite a gentleman, yeah. Now, what I would ask him is just exactly what is it you think you're doing? Coming out and threatening the people of Britain. We had that before Brexit. We had it from them. We had it from Barack Obama. And the British people don't take lightly to it.
He said, Chris, a few years ago, when he was president of the Eurogroup, and there was a big euro crisis going on, Juncker after that said, when it gets serious, you have to lie. And I think in Juncker's mind...
I remember that.
Yeah. I think in Juncker's mind, defending this European project matters more than the truth or anything else. And if he has to intimidate and threaten and bully, he will do it. Chris, I thank you for your call. I'm going to go to Barbara, my last caller of the evening. I'm going to go to Barbara in Edinburgh. Good evening, Barbara.
Nigel.
Who would you like to meet and what would you say?
Oh, Jeremy Corbyn. I'd like to ask him if he thinks that Diane Abbott would appeal to the rest of Britain, because she may be popular in her own area, but I've got a feeling that the rest of Britain are not really she doesn't appeal to them, put it that way.
Do you think that yesterday's LBC interview really has done the Labour Party harm?
I do, yes. I mean, it is embarrassing. And also, he didn't, and Jeremy Corbyn himself, he should have just said it was embarrassing and that these things happen.
Do you know something, Barbara?
They handle things so badly.
Do you know something? Just occasionally in life, when things go really badly wrong, if you as a party leader hold your hands up and say, do you know what, we made a mess of it, I think the public would respect that more than a whole load of excuses which simply don't wash and don't work. Barbara, thank you for your call. Thank you, everybody, for your calls. My feeling on all of this is that the referendum last year made us feel much closer to politics. It made us feel much more involved. Indeed, in many ways, it made us feel more powerful. But I don't think it's brought us any closer to our political leaders whatsoever. And I'm going to say top marks to Tim Farron for actually being out there and meeting the public, because that's where you get nice things said and nasty things said. All our politicians should go out in this campaign and do this. You've been listening to the Nigel Farage Show on LBC, and I won't be on air tomorrow, first time this year, due to the local elections. However, I'm going to join Ian Dale and Sheila Fogarty at 10 p.m. tomorrow night for an election special show. I'll be on the panel with Michael Gove and Emily Thornberry. It should be fun. Coming up tonight at 10, it's Ian Collins, but up next, it's Clive Bull.
Nigel, thank you, and we're continuing the conversation after the news. So Theresa May has accused